My F-26, husband M35 of 10 years is amazing on paper, but I'm coming to terms with the fact I was taken advantage of. I never expected to feel like this. I thought I had everything figured out. A perfect family, a loving husband, two beautiful kids. But now, as I sit here in the quiet of the night, I can't stop thinking about everything. Everything that's led me to this point. How did I let myself get here? How did I let him take advantage of me? How did I ignore all the warning signs for so long? I've been with Nathan for 10 years. 7 of those years we've been married. We have 2 kids, Maya, who's 9, and Caleb, who's 6. On the outside, we're the ideal family. People envy what we have. But what they don't know, what no one knows, is the truth. The truth about how it all started. The truth about what I've been through. What I've allowed myself to become. I came from nothing. I'm originally from a small town, a place so small that you couldn't walk down the street without hearing someone's business. A place where secrets were currency and survival meant becoming invisible. My parents were addicts, and from the time I could walk, I was left to fend for myself. I never had a stable home. I never had a stable anything. I watched my parents destroy themselves, and I was the one left to pick up the pieces. When I was 15, I ran away. I didn't know what I was running toward, just what I was running from. I ended up in a bigger city, thinking I would finally find peace. Instead, I found more instability. More people who used me took advantage of my naivety. I lived in and out of people's homes, staying wherever I could find a bed to sleep on. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't anything anyone would want, but it was all I knew. And then I met Nathan. It was a strange thing meeting him. He was 24, already a man, and I was a kid. But back then I didn't see it that way. He didn't look at me like I was a child either. We barely spoke when we first met, but his girlfriend at the time offered me a place to stay when I had nowhere else to go. I was so desperate for a stable roof over my head, for someone to care, that I accepted. They broke up a few months later, but Nathan didn't make me leave. He let me stay there for free, even when I told him I had no money, no family, nowhere to go. He saw how broken I was, and he didn't want to let me go. But now I see it wasn't charity. It wasn't kindness. It was manipulation. I was a child, a girl trying to survive. I didn't know what love was. I didn't know what respect was, and he took advantage of that. He knew I needed someone. And he offered me just enough to make me feel like I owed him something in return. I thought he cared. I thought he was being nice, but I was wrong. Looking back now, I can see how it all played out, how I was so eager to please him, so desperate to belong that I ignored the reality of the situation. I made the first move, sure, but I was 16. He was 24. He was the adult. He was the one who should have known better. He should have stopped me, but he didn't. He encouraged it. He let it happen. I got pregnant with Maya not long after. I thought it was what I wanted, what I needed, a family. A sense of belonging, but deep down I know it was. I wasn't ready. I was still a child myself. But we had Maya, and then Caleb came a few years later. I thought having children would fix everything. I thought it would heal the wounds that were left from my childhood, from my mistakes. But it didn't. As my kids have grown older, I've started to realize more and more how wrong everything was. How I was never really allowed to grow up. I've spent so much of my life trying to be what other people needed me to be that I lost sight of who I am. And now I'm in therapy. Secretly, of course. Nathan doesn't know. He thinks I'm fine. He thinks everything's great, but it's not. I'm not fine. I had a breakdown just a few months ago. Another one a few weeks ago. I can't keep pretending anymore. I can't keep pretending that everything is okay. Nathan is a good father. He's a good provider. He does everything he's supposed to do, but I can't ignore the truth anymore. He took advantage of me when I was a child. He groomed me. He made me feel like I owed him something, like I had to repay him for all he did for me. But I didn't. I never did. The anger is building inside me. The resentment, the bitterness. But I can't let it out. I can't. Because if I do, everything will fall apart. The perfect family, the perfect life, all of it will shatter. I love my kids more than anything. I would do anything for them, but I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to fix me. I don't know what to do from here. It's like I'm stuck in this place where I don't know who I am anymore. Where I'm trapped between the person I used to be and the person I'm supposed to be. I know I'm not alone in this. There are others out there who have gone through what I have, who have been through worse, but it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it any less painful. I feel like I'm falling apart piece by piece and I don't know how to stop it. I want to believe that I can move forward, that I can heal, but I'm scared. I'm scared of what might happen if I tell Nathan the truth, if I tell him how I really feel. Will he even care? Will he leave? Will he deny everything? Will he try to turn it around on me like he always does when I bring up uncomfortable things? But something else has been happening lately, something I can't explain. I've started noticing strange things, things that don't make sense, little things that send a chill down my spine. The way he looks at me sometimes like he's waiting for something. The way he acts when I bring up the past. The way he won't let me be alone with our kids at certain times. I don't know what's going on. But I can feel something is off. Something isn't right, and it's making me question everything all over again. What if I've been blind to something worse? What if there's more to this story than I realize? I don't know, but I can't keep pretending everything is okay. I just can't. And I don't know what comes next. The unease has only grown. It's like there's this dark presence hanging over our family, something that wasn't there before, something I can't put my finger on. At first, I thought it was just me, maybe my mind overthinking. But the more I pay attention, the more I realize there's something else. Something I'm not seeing or maybe too afraid to confront. It started with little things. The way Nathan's smile would falter when I'd mention our past, how he'd immediately change the subject or become distant. It was subtle at first, just fleeting moments, but I began to notice the shifts in his behavior. Then came the small, unexplained events, like when he'd be gone for hours on end with no explanation. When he would snap if I questioned him about where he had been. It was always the same answer, just out handling things, it's nothing. But it was something, and then I found it. One evening, after Nathan had left for work, I decided to finally go through the box of old things I had tucked away, things from my childhood, things I hadn't been able to look at in years. It felt like I needed to reconnect with who I used to be, to remind myself of the person I once was before everything got tangled up. As I sorted through the box, I came across an old journal, one I hadn't seen in ages. The pages were filled with memories from when I was younger, entries about how I felt when I first met Nathan, how safe I felt when he took me in, how much I admired him. And then there was a strange, unsettling entry that stopped me cold. It was dated about 6 months after we'd met. The writing was frantic, hurried, almost as if I had written it in a rush. It described an encounter between Nathan and me, an event I had completely blocked from my memory. The words were chilling. He looked at me like I was a possession, like I was something to own. I didn't want to do it, but I couldn't stop myself. He made me feel so small, like if I didn't, he'd leave me, and I couldn't survive without him. I felt sick to my stomach as I read those words, words I had never remembered. How had I forgotten this? I knew deep down I had always felt something was wrong about that time, but I had buried it, buried the guilt and shame deep inside me. The feeling that something wasn't right in those early days of our relationship was stronger than ever now. But as I read that journal entry, I began to feel a surge of anger, not just at Nathan, but at myself. How could I have let it get this far? I had been a kid, a scared, lost child who didn't know what love looked like, who didn't know what respect was. I had convinced myself that Nathan had saved me, that he was the one person who cared. But the truth was right there in front of me. He hadn't saved me. He had taken advantage of me, manipulated me from the very beginning. He'd groomed me, used my desperation to create a situation where I felt I owed him everything. And it worked. But the worst part, he's still doing it. The feeling of being trapped, of being controlled, is overwhelming now. It's like every part of me is screaming for freedom, but I don't know how to get out. He has a way of making me feel like I'm crazy, like I'm imagining things, and I hate myself for letting him make me feel this way. I can't trust myself anymore, not completely. Not when every time I try to get closer to the truth, he pushes me back. And now I know he's hiding something. Last week, while I was cleaning out the basement, I found something else, an old file folder buried in the back of one of the cabinets. It was marked with a strange symbol I didn't recognize, one that made my heart race. Inside, there were papers, legal documents, and photographs that didn't belong to us. The photos were blurry, old, and the people in them were unfamiliar, but there was one thing that was unmistakable. Nathan was in every single one. There were dates, names I didn't know, locations I didn't recognize. What was this? Who were these people? What was Nathan involved in? I couldn't bring myself to tell him. I couldn't show him what I'd found. I'm terrified that if I confront him with it, he'll snap. He's already been acting so strange lately, and now I can't shake the feeling that something is deeply wrong, more wrong than I ever realized. The tension in the house is suffocating. The air is thick with secrets, with things unsaid. Maya and Caleb are starting to notice too. They ask about him when he's gone, why he's so distant. They ask why I'm so quiet, why I seem so anxious all the time. And then there's the nightmares. They're getting worse. Every night I see flashes of things I don't understand. A dark figure in the shadows whispering things I can't quite hear. A door opening, but I'm too afraid to look. The sensation of being watched, even when I'm alone. I've started to keep a journal of my own, something I can look back on when I start to forget the details, when my mind tries to play tricks on me. I need to remember. I need to know the truth. But I also know that the closer I get to the truth, the more dangerous it becomes. The more I understand about what Nathan is hiding, the more I realize how far he's willing to go to protect whatever secret he's keeping. I'm terrified. I've started to wonder if I'll ever really escape, if I can ever truly free myself from this cage I've found myself in. I don't know who I am anymore. All I know is that I can't keep living like this. The walls are closing in, and I don't know who I can trust. My husband, the man I've spent the past 10 years with, or myself. I need answers, but I'm afraid that the answers I find will destroy everything. And yet I can't stop looking. I can't stop digging because I have to know something is coming, something dark, something that's been lurking in the shadows for far too long. And I don't think I'm ready for what I'll find, but I can't back away now, not when the truth is so close. I have to keep going, no matter the cost. The unease in the house has shifted into something worse. It's like a palpable tension that clings to the walls, an oppressive weight that never leaves. I see it in the way Nathan looks at me now, the way his eyes linger a little too long, a little too cold. He's always been intense, but lately it's different. There's something dark in his gaze that I can't ignore. It's not just in his eyes, though. It's in his actions, in the way he's become more possessive, more controlling. He's been pushing me to spend more time with the kids, keeping me away from anything that might get in the way of his plans. He says it's because he doesn't want me to be stressed, that he wants to protect me from the outside world, but I see through it now. It's not protection, it's isolation. He wants me to depend on him more. I've started to feel like I'm living in a prison, but the bars are invisible. I don't know what to do because every time I try to break free, he tightens his grip. The other day, I mentioned something about wanting to visit my sister, someone from my past who still reminds me that I'm more than just a mother and a wife. Nathan's response was quick, almost too quick, and the way he reacted left a chill in the air. He told me it wasn't a good time, that we should focus on our family, that I didn't need to reconnect with my past. And then he gave me that look. The one I used to think was affection, but now I know better. It's possessiveness. Control. I should have fought back, I should have gone. But the moment I started to push, he turned colder, more distant, and I knew that if I pressed him too hard, there would be consequences. He'd make me feel guilty. He'd twist my words. He'd make me feel like I was betraying the family, so I caved. And that's how it always is with him. He knows just how to make me second-guess myself, to make me feel like I'm the one in the wrong. And now, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. It started with little things. An extra set of footsteps when I thought I was alone, strange noises at night, the feeling of being followed when I went out for errands. The kids noticed it too. Maya asked me last week why the windows were always locked now, why the doors were always double-checked, why Nathan insisted on turning the lights off at certain times. She asked me if I was scared. I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what I'm scared of exactly, but I know something is very, very wrong. Something that Nathan is hiding, and I'm getting closer to finding out what it is. Last night I heard him talking in his sleep. It was barely a murmur at first, but then the words became clearer. I'll do anything to protect you. I can't let them get to you. Not again. He was still asleep when I heard it, his voice low, frantic, as if he was trying to convince someone, or maybe himself, that everything was under control. It made my stomach churn because I didn't know who them were. I've been so focused on the mysteries around Nathan, But now I wonder if there's something even darker lurking in his past. Maybe it's not just about me. Maybe I'm just a part of something much bigger, something I was never meant to know about. The more I dig, the deeper I go, the more dangerous it feels. I've started following Nathan when he leaves the house. I wait until he's gone, and then I quietly leave to follow him, keeping my distance, not wanting to be seen. Every time he goes to the same address, a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of town. The first time I saw him enter, I felt a pang of dread in my chest. He didn't see me, but I saw him. And I saw who he met with. Two men older with eyes that looked like they had seen too much. Nathan shook their hands, but it wasn't the kind of handshake I'd ever seen him give. It was like he was showing respect, respect to people who were in control. And the way they looked at him. It was as if he was one of them. After that, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus on anything but the image of Nathan standing there, calm and composed, surrounded by strangers whose faces I didn't recognize. I don't know why, but something about the way they interacted made me feel like I was only scratching the surface. Like there was something deeper, something more sinister beneath the surface. I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but I know better. He's not the same man I thought I married. If I ask the wrong question, if I push him too hard, I don't know what he'll do. I don't know how far he's willing to go to protect his secrets. I'm at the edge now. I can't go back. I've been doing my own digging. I've been following the paper trail from those old files I found. The names, the dates, the photographs, each one leads me deeper into a world I never knew existed. A world that Nathan has been hiding from me for years. The more I uncover, the more I see that he's involved in something far beyond my understanding. I found a name that appeared in the photos, that was written on a few of the documents, Elena, a woman, but not just any woman. She was connected to the things Nathan had been doing, the things he's been hiding, and she's been in his life for longer than I've known him. The puzzle pieces are starting to fit together in a way I don't like. Elena's name keeps popping up in strange places, on legal papers, in cryptic emails, in conversations Nathan thought I wasn't listening to. I don't know who she is, but I'm beginning to think she's not someone I want to meet. There's something else, though, a sense of dread that's starting to consume me. I've been feeling it more and more. There's a feeling in the pit of my stomach, like something is coming, something that I can't stop, no matter how hard I try. And then last night it happened. I heard a knock at the door. It was late, too late for anyone to be visiting. When I opened it, there was no one there, just a package lying on the doorstep. No return address, no note, just the package. Inside, there was only one thing, a photograph. It was a picture of Nathan, but not in the way I've ever seen him. He was standing in a room, his face tense, surrounded by people I didn't recognize. But the most chilling thing, the photo was dated a year before we met. A year before I even knew him. That was all it took to confirm everything I've been afraid of. Nathan is hiding more than just secrets from me. He's hiding his entire life. And I don't think I'm going to like what I find. Whatever's coming, it's close now. I can feel it. And I can't stop it, but I have to try, because if I don't, I'll lose everything. The weight of that photograph lingers in my mind. Its presence a constant reminder that something is terribly wrong. Every time I close my eyes, I see Nathan in that room, his face tense and unfamiliar, surrounded by those people. They looked like they were part of something larger, something far beyond the scope of our small life. The fact that the photo was dated a year before we met only deepens the mystery. How could I have not known about this side of him? How could he have kept it hidden from me for so long? The unease I've been feeling now feels like something far more dangerous, like a storm that's been brewing for years and is finally about to break. But what am I even dealing with? I thought Nathan was a man I could trust, the one person who made me feel safe when I had nothing left. But that feeling is slipping away fast. The man I thought I knew, my husband, the father of my children, might be a stranger to me, or worse, something much darker. I've been trying to make sense of the photograph, trying to convince myself that I'm overreacting, that maybe it was just a coincidence, that maybe Nathan had a life before me that I didn't need to know about. But the more I think about it, the less I believe that. There's no way a photograph like that could just be brushed off. No way that the people in it were just friends, colleagues, or acquaintances. There's something sinister in the air, something that smells like danger, like a secret that has festered for too long and is now ready to come to the surface. I haven't been able to stop thinking about the name Alina either. It keeps popping up in the files, in the conversations I overhear, in the small, cryptic clues Nathan doesn't realize I'm catching. Who is she? Why does she seem so important? Is she part of this life he's hiding from me? And why does her name haunt me so much? I keep hearing it in the back of my mind like a whisper from the shadows, urging me to dig deeper, to follow the trail wherever it leads. But every time I try to take a step forward, something holds me back. It's like the universe is conspiring to keep me in the dark, to make me doubt myself. The walls are closing in. Nathan's behavior is growing more erratic, and I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending like everything is okay. This evening, I decided to confront him. I had to know the truth. If I didn't, I was going to lose my mind. I waited until he was home from work, when the house was quiet and the kids were already in bed. I told myself I wasn't going to let him manipulate me anymore. I wasn't going to back down this time. I had to find out what he was hiding. "Nathan, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. He looked at me, his eyes narrowing, that same coldness creeping into his expression. I could see him calculating his next move, trying to figure out how to control the situation. "What about?" he asked, his voice flat, almost too calm. "I know about Alina," I said, forcing the words out despite the knot of fear in my stomach. His face didn't change, but there was a flicker in his eyes, something dark. "I don't know what you're talking about," he replied, his tone sharp. But the lie was so transparent it made me sick. I pushed harder. "I found the files, Nathan. I know you've been hiding things from me. Who is she? And what is this life you've been keeping from me?" His face tightened, his jaw clenched. For a moment he didn't say anything. The silence between us was suffocating, thick with the weight of unspoken truths. Then finally he spoke, but his voice was low, dangerous. "You don't want to know what you're asking," he said, his eyes hard. "Some things are better left buried, Claire. You don't understand what you're dealing with." "I don't understand." I repeated, my anger rising. "You've been lying to me for years, Nathan. I have every right to know the truth." He stood up suddenly, his chair scraping harshly against the floor, and I instinctively took a step back. The way he moved, it was as if he was about to do something I wasn't ready for. I'd never seen him like this, never seen this kind of anger and desperation in his eyes. It terrified me. "You don't know anything," he spat, his voice low and venomous. "You think you want the truth. You think you're ready to hear it. You're not. You have no idea what's really going on, what's at stake. If you keep pushing, if you keep asking questions, there will be consequences." I could feel the chill in the air, the danger radiating off him like a physical presence. And for the first time in years, I was scared of him. Not the man I had married, but something else. Something darker. I knew then that I was on the edge of something I couldn't control. I had no idea what kind of world I had married into, but I was about to find out. And as much as I hated it, I knew that if I wanted to survive, I couldn't back down. Later that night, after Nathan had retreated into his study, I heard a soft knock at the door again. My heart raced, a cold sweat prickling my skin. Was it him? Was it Nathan coming back to finish what he'd started? I opened the door, and this time it wasn't a photograph waiting on the doorstep. It was something far worse. A man. A stranger, tall, dressed in black, his face obscured by a hood. He didn't say a word, just held out an envelope. My hands trembled as I took it from him, and he was gone before I could even speak. I stood there for a long moment, the envelope heavy in my hands. I knew whatever was inside would change everything. I could feel it. I tore it open, my pulse hammering in my ears. Inside was a single photograph, just like the one from before, but this time it was different. This one showed Nathan standing next to a woman, and beside her was me. I felt my stomach drop. It was a picture from a place I didn't recognize, a time I couldn't remember. But there I was, standing next to Nathan, smiling like I had always been a part of whatever this was. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the writing on the back. "We know what you've been looking for. You don't want to find out what happens next." And just like that, I realized there was no going back.